everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. I wanted to share all the projects that I made using the Simon Says Stamp November 2024 card kit called Christmas Cheer. I'm really excited about this kit because I illustrated the stamp set that's included, also called Christmas Cheer, and I couldn't wait to use it along with all of the other contents because this kit has so many fun pieces included. So I'm going to be sharing 3 different cards that I made along with a set of tags, all of these using contents from the kit. So let's start first with this card that I created using the little deer. I love her, she's so sweet, and I'm going to pair it up with some of the other images from the stamp set. This is the stamp set, and it comes with all of these fun images along with some sentiments and also some embellishment pieces that you can use to trim either the corners or the top and bottom of your card. So I'm going to start first by stamping my images with some intense black ink from Simon Says Stamp onto some Hammermill white cardstock. I'm using the white cardstock from Hammermill because I want to Copic color these images, and this is my favorite paper to use with Copic coloring. I used very simple coloring for the images here, but I did use the inspiration of the pattern paper to help me choose which colors I wanted for my project. So for the deer, I used some really light E40 markers. And then I also colored in her bow with a teal marker. I thought that would be a really nice touch. I put a little blush on her ears and also her chest. Bringing in some red, I'm going to color in the berries of the holly stems. There are 2 of them that are both opposite of each other, so you can use them to flank an image, which is what I'm going to be doing here. And then I'm also going to color the candy cane with those same reds. I'm going to then shade the white areas of the candy cane with just a light gray marker just to add a little bit of dimension to it. For the holly leaves, I brought in some green markers, again pulling some inspiration from the pattern papers so that way the colors that I use for my coloring will match well with the pattern paper. I finished up by coloring in that cute little bow on the deer, and then using those teal markers, I colored in the little banner. This banner is where we're going to stamp one of the curved sentiments from the stamp set, which work perfectly with this banner shape. There are coordinating dies for this stamp set. Because I get the kits ahead of time, the coordinating dies were not quite ready, so I didn't have them to use. So I'm going to fussy cut mine, but I'm going to be purchasing these dies because I want to be able to use these images for other projects this holiday season, and the coordinating dies are going to make it so helpful. But for my images, I'm going to use my fine tip scissors to fussy cut these out. I'm cutting along the edge of the stamp, leaving a small white border, just like the dies would. Once I have all my images cut out, then I'm going to work on stamping that greeting onto my banner. I've pulled out Raindrop ink from Simon Says Stamp. I thought this color would go really well with the colors I've chosen for my coloring and the pattern papers, and I'm stamping the Merry Christmas on top of that banner. Oh my gosh, these Fringed Scalloped frame dies from Memory Box are so good. I have been using these like crazy over the past couple months because they are so perfect for creating a subtle little texture to the edges of your card panels. Just look at how beautiful this is. So I cut the pattern paper from the kit. This is the Candy Cane Lane collection from Prima. I cut that with those scallop frames, and then I'm going to glue all of my little elements into the center. I'm layering up everything on top of the deer. The deer is the center point, and then those little holly branches are going to get arranged around her. The banner, of course, is sitting on top, and then I will tuck also this cute little candy cane piece underneath the banner as well. All of these pieces I glued down with foam squares. That's a great dimensional adhesive that adds a little bit of lift to the images. To make the deer a little bit more realistic, I did take some white Nouveau drops and added those to the little freckles on her back. I'm putting this card panel onto an A2 card that I made with some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. I love how the Desert Storm is a nice soft touch and brings in some of that brown from the deer. To add some accents to my berries on the holly leaves, I brought in some glossy accents, and I'm going to drop that on each of those berries just to give them some dimension and shine. And our final finishing touch for this card is to add a little bow. So this bow I'm creating from some of the twine that you get in the kit. I'm tying it into a small shaped bow, and I'm going to leave some long tails. The reason is because I want to actually glue the tails onto my card, kind of in this fun little dancing form. I think it's so cute. It adds some movement to the bottom of the card, and it creates such a cute little accent. So I'm gluing the bow onto my card with some craft tacky glue from Simon, and then I'm using that craft tacky glue to add just a small amount of adhesive to the tails in just some certain strategic sections. That way I can glue the tail into the shape that I want it to be. So it's forming this fun little dance around my images, which looks so cute. And this is going to be the perfect accent for this card. And this will hold up really well in the mail because we use the craft tacky glue. This is a strong adhesive for embellishments and other types of non-paper pieces. It works great on paper, but it also works great for other products too. Not every other glue works as well with other mediums other than paper, but this glue does, and I really love that. So I was able to glue this twine onto my card with no problem, and it'll hold up really well in the mail. So this was card number 1. It is so sweet with that simple pattern paper in the background, adding a little bit of fun and depth, and then those beautiful images on the front of the card just look so cute, clustered together to create this pretty little scene. Alright, so now we're going to use that stamp set again, but this time we're going to create a card using the Santa image and also the large ho ho ho. I'm going to start first by stamping that ho ho ho. I'm picking out 2 new ink colors from Simon Says Stamp called Rhubarb and also Cranberry. We're going to start with Rhubarb first, and I'm going to ink up the entire ho 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 image with that ink color, stamping it onto a scallop frame that I die cut from that same memory box die set. And this is going to be a landscape card though, not portrait. This is cut from some Simon Says Stamp 120 pound white cardstock. I'm bringing in Cranberry now, and I'm going to ink up about 2/3 of that ho 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 sentiment. But then with a blending brush, I'm actually going to fade that ink back almost about halfway down the stamp. And this way I'm going to get this ombre effect on the ho ho ho. It's got this really awesome shading that looks so neat. It really adds some unique depth to the sentiment, makes it something special. So I'm going to then put my Santa on the right side of the greeting, but I need to, of course, color him in. So I colored the images that I'm going to be using for this card very similar to how I did the deer on the first card. There's a lot of other things I want to be sharing with you today, so I'm going to skip showing you the coloring for everything that I did. What I'm doing right now is I'm using some glossy accents to cover some of the white areas of Santa, so like the cuff of his jacket and also his hat. I want those to be sparkly. So I'm using some Tim Holtz Distress Clear Rock Candy glitter to give that sparkly effect. I also did the same thing to certain areas of the presents. I wanted the packages to have glittery bows, so I'm going to go ahead and cover those with the glossy accents and then sprinkle the glitter on those as well. By using the glossy accents and then the Distress Clear Rock Candy, we'll still maintain those bright colors underneath of the sparkle. So I'm going to start attaching my images onto my card. Again, they're going to get lined up on the right side of that card next to the ho ho ho. I'm using foam squares to attach them down so that way they have some dimension. So Santa's going to get lined up first, and then I'll start bringing in the presents. I'm going to adhere those underneath him just so that way he looks like he's surrounded by a series of packages. Next, I'm going to bring in these little star stamps from the stamp set and stamp these around Santa with a light teal ink. This is some Tide Pool from Simon Says Stamp. This is going to look so cute because it's going to look like there is some sparkle around him, and that minty color looks really great with the pattern paper. So the pattern paper that I'm using is this fun striped pattern. I'm going to glue it to my card base using a Simon Says Stamp glue stick. This striped pattern will look great underneath of our scallop frame, which will add a really nice, fun, and festive finish to the project. So as I did for the first card, I popped up that scallop panel off of my A2 sized card, and that is going to complete the design. The only thing I did at the end was add a little bit of shading underneath Santa to give him a little bit of a grounding. I just love the sparkle of this card. Everything that is white has that fun little sparkle, and then of course the gift packages also shine and sparkle too. So next up, I'm going to share the projects that I created with the Craft Consortium Decoupage sheets that you get in the kit. These are so much fun to play with because they make these fun dimensional scenes. And I'm going to share 2 different ways on how you can use these. So first off, you can use them with the foam squares that come with the sheets and create these really dimensional 3D scenes. Or I'm also going to show you an alternative on how you can use them with just some regular glue to make a slightly less dimensional image. But you get a whole pack of these in your kit, and there are multiple designs of these decoupage sheets, and you get 2 of each of the designs, which I think is super fun. They're so cute and would be great not just for card panels, but I'm also going to turn them into tags. They're really easy to work with too because they are marked with the steps that are required in order to build them. So you can build these in no time at all. So I'm going to start first by taking layer 1 and also layer 2. Make sure you read which layers are what on the panels because sometimes one layer might actually have 2 pieces. So sometimes let's say layer 3 might have 2 sections for that layer. So you just got to read through and figure out which layer goes with what. But you're going to pop out any little interior pieces that might be required to be popped out. And as you pop them out, you can start adhering them onto your main panel, which is that first square that we popped out. All of these other pieces are going to get subsequently adhered on top to form more and more dimension and make the scene look realistic. So I'm going to use those foam squares that are included in the kit, and I'm going to go ahead and start popping these pieces up on top of the section that it matches up with. This is kind of like building a matching puzzle. It's really easy to figure out where these go because each section lines up with something that you've already put down before. And the foam squares being included makes it so simple to adhere these together, and I just love how realistic this looks. It makes it feel like you can step into this scene and be part of it. So as I just go through and figure out which layers go where, then I'll go ahead and adhere them down. And I like to kind of go in order and not jump ahead and pop all of the pieces out all at once, because then I won't lose which ones go where. I won't get lost along the way. So I pop them out one at a time, adhere them, and then pop out the next one. Just check out how cute this is. So fun and so dimensional. I made multiples of these because I'm actually going to turn them into tags. I thought these would be so cute as tags on some gift packages this year for Christmas, and they're a really nice size. So to turn them into tags, I'm just taking a small hole punch, and I'm going to also use a reinforcer that I pulled out of a Simon Says Stamp tag die set that I had in my stash. This is a nested tag set, and I love the little reinforcers that it comes with. I cut those from the red metallic cardstock that's also part of the kit, and I'm gluing that reinforcer onto that hole that I cut out. And then using some of that black and white baker's twine that's also part of the kit, I'm going to thread that through that hole and tie it around the edge of the tag to form a nice little string that I can then adhere to my gift package. And then because these are white on the back, they have a perfect place for me to write the to and from. You could leave these as is, or you can step them up a little bit. You could put gems on some of the little holly pieces or some of the Christmas lights. I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of glitter, so I'm going to put some of the glossy accents on certain sections of the image and definitely along the bottom of the snow, just so that way I can create a sparkly finish on the tags. So this will look very frosty and feel like it is a winter wonderland, which is super cute. And that distressed clear rock candy is the perfect finish for this. So you can see it sparkling in the light, and of course the glue will dry completely clear once it's dry. So I repeated this process for all the tags I made. I ended up making 3 of them in total, so I'll have some ready to go for my holiday gifts this year. But I also wanted to show you what you can do is if you want to use these as a card piece, but not have it be as dimensional. So you want something that's going to be a little bit more easy to mail. Well, you can glue these together with just some standard glue, stack them on top of each other, and they'll still look dimensional. Yes, they won't be quite as dimensional as if you used the foam squares, but it still looks really cool, and I loved the dimension that it added to this scene. And this scene I'm going to turn into a card. So I'm just taking each one of those layers, again, popping them out one at a time and gluing them down so that way I can form my little scene. And just they come together so easy. This is a really fun process of creating these. I want to make more of them. It's just so much fun to put them together. So I use craft tacky glue for my adhesive to glue all these pieces in place. And then I end up with this beautiful little scene that I can attach onto a card. So I will trim this down so it's slightly smaller. I did want it to be a slightly smaller size to fit on my A2 card, but see the difference here. We've got the more dimensional one with the foam squares on the left, and then the other one on the right that features the technique of just gluing all the pieces on top of each other, just stacking them together with the liquid glue. Either way, they create a beautiful piece that you can use for either tags or a card. And I'm going to show you how I ended up completing that card. That's what you're seeing here on screen. I featured some of the pattern paper and also a fun bow. So here's my little scene panel that we created. I've already cut it down and I'm picked out some of this pattern paper from the card kit, and I'm going to use this right along the top half of the card. Then I'm going to put a little bit of this metallic silver cardstock underneath just to frame it up a little bit. This little bit of silver is going to be around all 4 edges, and so it's going to give a nice little framing for this piece. I'm going to glue my pattern paper onto my card using the same glue stick that I was using for the other card. I love glue sticks for pattern paper and adhering panels together because it gives me a little bit of extra time to wiggle the paper around and get it perfectly centered onto my card. And then I also love the fact that the Simon glue stick holds really well. I don't have any issues with the cards falling apart later. It's a really nice, strong adhesive. I'm going to put foam squares on the back side of this panel that features the little snowmen, and I'm going to also cut a slit along the top of my card. Because I want to wrap some ribbon around it and I'm using a top folding card, I need to cut that slit into it. If you were making a side folding card, you wouldn't have to worry about this. But I'm going to go ahead and slip some of this red ribbon that I have here, and I'm going to tie this around the card. I want it to almost look like a little gift package. I do want to make sure I get my snowman panel in place before I tie the bow though, so that way the ribbon is nice and flat. And I'm going to tie this into a nice big chunky bow. I wanted the bow to really feel hefty on the card and also to kind of take center stage. I really liked the fact that there was some red in the pattern paper, and of course the snowmen feature a lot of red as well, so the red ribbon really made sense here. I'm also going to make sure I tie in some of the pink though, because the pink in the pattern paper was also strong, and I thought that would be a great color for my sentiment. So once I have my bow tied around the card, we're ready to go ahead and stamp our sentiment. So I'm going to use that same banner image that I used for the first card, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment Merry Christmas. I'm using embossing ink, however, and I'm going to actually reverse the process. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment first and then the banner. So I stamped it with embossing ink and then used white embossing powder to sprinkle on top. That way I can heat set this and get my nice bright white greeting ready to go, and I don't have to worry about any of the embossing accidentally catching on any of my other stamping. So I'm going to now bring in that little banner. I'm going to line this up, and it's really easy to do. The clear stamps are easy to see through, and you can see where it's going to end up being placed. I'm going to stamp the banner this time, however, with Princess ink from Rainbow Splash. This is a really pretty pink, and I thought this would go really well with the pink colors in the card. I'm stamping this on top of the pink cardstock and then using some Copic markers in some colors that were really close. I'm using that to shade the banner. So I used the lighter marker to shade the tails and also part of the main part of the banner, and the darker color is shading the fold of the banner. And then with my fine tip scissors, I'm going to fussy cut the banner out, but this time I actually cut the banner right up to the edge. I didn't want any of that light pink showing around the edges of this image, so I'm actually going to cut right up to the line. And that looks so cute, centered on top of our little snowmen. I only put glue right in the center of that banner, just so that way the tails would kind of stick up a little bit and make it look a little more dimensional. So that's going to do it for the final card project that I made using the Simon Says Stamp November 2024 card kit called Christmas Cheer. As you can see, there's a lot of different things that you can make with the kit, whether it's tags or cards. The contents of this kit are so festive and fun and will give you lots of crafty time. I've actually made some other things with my mom and sister when I went to visit them in Maine, and we had a blast using the contents of the kit to make even more projects. My sister made some cards, my mom made some cards, I made another one. So it's a lot of fun, and you can make a lot of different things with the Simon kits. So I hope you were inspired by today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you will stop back to see more inspiration from me. But until then, have a wonderful day, and thanks again for stopping by.